Martin.
Here.
Eckhart.
Here.
Sherman.
Here.
Hamilton. Here. Hannaford.
Here.
Stelling. Wallace.
Here.
Next item is number 4, discussion and action on the consent agenda. All the following items which concern reports and items of routine nature normally approved at city council meetings will be approved by one vote of the council. Any member of the council desiring to discuss an item on the consent agenda may request that it be removed from the consent agenda and placed for discussion as the next item on the regular agenda. It will then be considered separately. The consent agenda consists of the consideration and action on the following items. The minutes from December 16, 2019. Approval of claims in the amount of $344,333.90 and payroll expenses of $297,563.54. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Motion to approve consent agenda. Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Roll call, please.
Sherman.
Yes.
Wallace.
Yes.
Hannaford.
Yes.
Eckhart.
Yes.
Hamilton.
Yes.
Martin.
Yes.
Okay. Number 6, reports from staff. We'll start with the Alva Public Library Board. Councilman Eckhart.
Okay, we had a relatively short meeting. Let's see here. We talked about several different things, just some small minor things about how youth programming is going to be picking back up after it was suspended for the holidays. They do have a brown bag lunch area for anybody who lives in town and wants to bring their lunch. So if they're working or they need to do something in a quiet atmosphere, they can do that from 11 to 2 every day. The thing that took up a large portion of our discussion was that the American Library Association has started to kind of change their viewpoints on fines, and a lot of libraries in the country, I guess you could say, are eliminating fines as something that libraries are doing. So we discussed, when this wasn't something that we voted on by any means or anything like that. We just talked about, what would this be? What would this look like if the library were to do something like this? And we talked about, what would have to change, what would have to be different. And so starting, I believe this month, they're starting to itemize their purchases a little more so we can see how much of that income is actually fines versus other things. So we can kind of see an idea as it were. She did say that, according to the ALA, that libraries who have removed the fine option have had a large uptick in checkouts. They've actually had a larger checkout service there. So that's something that we talked about. And it's like I said, she's going to do some numbers and some figures and something we'll continue to kind of monitor as we progress. So that was pretty much what we discussed.
There's no fines to keep people from keeping the book. Is there like a final after so long you guys charge them for the book? Or?
Yeah, she said there's different things that they can do. She said a lot of the libraries, what they do is after like a 14-day period, they have no access to any of the library services at all, internet or anything, until either that book is replaced or returned.
Okay.
So.
Yeah, and one of the things that she did mention in the staff meeting on that subject was that any of the libraries that had eliminated fines had seen a large increase in non-return books. Actually, I think that they had been getting books back quicker, because a lot of times people, if they're going to get a fine, they don't bring the book back and they don't show back up, whatever. If they know they're not going to get a fine, even if they've kept it too long, we're getting the book back instead of having the amnesty day or something like what a lot of libraries have.
And she said they would still, even if something like this were to be the direction they would go, they would still retain fines on certain items like DVDs, movies, things like that, that still were more costly to replace than books.
Okay, any other questions? If not, we'll move on to the Alva Regional Airport Commission meeting on January 13th, 2020.
Well, since the mayor's not here, and I did attend that meeting, I will tell you, a lot of the discussion centered around the ODL system. And that will be an item for discussion later on in the council meeting, so I won't go real deep into that until we get to that system. We did give an update on the installation of water lines at the airport. We are waiting, what we're waiting on right now is our DEQ permit. After we calculated the number of feet that we were going to have to install, we determined that we needed to get a DEQ permit to install those water lines, and we're waiting on the receipt of that. The permit, I believe, has been submitted with all the fees that are required. We're just waiting on a response. And the rest of it was just routine.
Okay, any questions for Joe Don? If not, we will move on to the Alva Tourism Tax Commission on January 18th, 2020. Mr. Martin?
We didn't have a meeting.
Okay, that's a good, clean report right there.
Answering
Sanitation,
questions.
yeah, Sanitation Committee meeting for January 10th.
Go ahead, Brian. No, go ahead, Brian.
If I leave anything out, please correct
Yeah.
me, John. I don't have my notes with me, but one of the things we did was we discussed with Randy the capital improvement needs. He's in need of some of the 2 cubic yard roll-off containers. We got several of them that are rusting out. He has said that he can make repairs to numerous ones of those, but he needs some new ones to put into place to rotate out so that he can work on them, rotate ones out and bring them back. One of the other things we did was that we reviewed the garbage exemption applications for 2020, made recommendations on those. You'll see those in your packet there. We approved several of them, discussed several of them. We discussed reviewing the rates for the garbage service as far as the roll-off services go. We had a little bit of discussion on that. Joe, did we come up with any real conclusions on that?
No, we didn't come up with any conclusions on that at this time. It'd be still something under discussion.
And a lot was discussed about how he's implementing different things to keep us on budget and looking at saving us money in lots of ways, which is really neat to see. He's making lots of adjustments that's really good for the city. So,
Yeah.
Do you have any questions?
Here, was the roll-offs part of the capital, I mean, did we talk about that in the capital outlays at all?
We did allocate some money for outlay money for that, $2,000 or $3,000, if I remember correct. Well, I've got it right here. We did allocate about $10,000 for 2-yard dumpsters. So we've got some capital outlay money there for those. That won't buy a complete,
I was gonna say, I don't know.
that won't buy a full load of them.
Okay.
It'll probably buy about a half a load.
Weren't they $6.99?
Yeah, about $600-700 a piece.
Yeah.
And but I have talked to Ronnie since then, and there's been a couple of them he's identified that he's already fixing the bottoms on. All they needed was new bottoms in them. So he's got those in. He's going to get those welded up and painted and new stickers on them, and we'll have essentially brand new roll-offs, 2-yard roll-offs out for some people.
Okay. Any other questions? If not, we'll move to the street committee meeting on January 17th, 2020. Who would that?
See, well, that would be Brian.
Go ahead.
Oh,
Go ahead, Joe.
Okay, I don't want to steal all
I have to be honest, I left my notes in the truck and I feel really bad about that. I can't believe I did that. I grabbed the wrong stack of paper.
Yeah, that's okay. The bulk of this meeting was to discuss the streets that we had completed and the streets that we were going to complete for the during the upcoming year. And Bo, if you will look in that drawer right there, yeah. Some of the things that we were planning on completing once the weather turns and we can start working on streets again. We'll get the curb and gutter and everything fixed over that Flynn and Mino culvert that washed out this year. I know this is a headache for a lot of people that drive that road, but for us to do much else than just what we're doing right now is not going to make a lot of sense. It'll cave in, and we've just got a little bit of time on that one. We'd like to, at 9th and Santa Fe, there's, where trucks go into Wheeler Brothers, they'd like to replace that corner. I'm kind of holding off on that corner right now, one, for the weather, and two, for the cost. That corner will probably be about a $20,000 fix, to do it right. And we're just holding off for a little while on that. We're going to try to do the west blacktop, the west side of the square, blacktop east of the bank, and along 7th Street, 4th and out here on 4th Street in front of City Hall, Locust Street from 6th to 11th, Cherry Street, Santa Fe from 6th to 11th, and then Hunt Street from Maple to Locust, is what we're looking at working on this upcoming year. And there's a few other streets that we're looking at right now that'll be able to be milled up a little bit and do a chip seal on. We need to really work on Skyline. There's a couple of areas there that are real soft, have some potholes in them right now. I think that what we think we can do is mill up the area that is soft and get it packed back down, and then do a chip seal along that entire street and improve that street tremendously. We also discussed bringing in the cost versus the benefit of bringing in a grinder to grind up the concrete out at the transfer station. That can be ground up into usable product for us to go back into alleys or even to use as base on streets. So we're looking at doing that. That'll probably be about a $20,000 to $30,000 project to get all that ground up, but we will eventually save that money because we won't have to be traveling to get rock for base and that type of product. The last thing that we discussed at the street committee, let me get my agenda back up. Actually, I think that is all that we discussed. I think we're going to try to put a map together to get out on the website to show all the streets that have been repaired over the years, either through chip seal or blacktop or concrete, to get that updated out. I do have a map. It doesn't look real pretty. It's just me and a couple of different colors of Sharpie pen, and my artistic ability is not huge. So
I might also add, we briefly discussed about some of the equipment he's got. He said
yeah,
the blacktop machine, I think, is in great shape, but he said some of his bobtail trucks are in really need some repair right now, and some of them are some expensive repairs, if I'm not mistaken, John.
yeah.
So that's something we're gonna have to look at here before too long.
Okay, thank you to both. Any questions? Okay, next one is the Alva Hospital Authority meeting, and I'll give you as much as I got through. It was a fairly lengthy agenda. I'll start off by talking about I know there's a lot of posting about the breach at the hospital for data. I can say that the hospital did a good job. The IT department got it shut down. We were just given a clean bill of health from ISG that no data was lost, which is good news. The bad news, it's taken a long time to get things brought back up and back online, so I think they're getting closer and closer to getting all that done. If there are any questions, or if you have any questions, or the public does, please contact our CEO or the IT director. We did approve the personnel use agreement for the Alva Hospital Authority and Dr. Self. As I said, we've got the person in place to take care of Dr. Self's office when he goes into deployment. He leaves on February 12th, and Steve Madrid will be starting on the 6th to kind of get acquainted with everything. We had our annual audit from BKD, and briefly I can tell you it was a clean audit. We have really cut down our operating loss tremendously from 2018 to 2019. Our long-term debt is going down. Our operation margins are trending better. It's a slow process, but the critical access has been very helpful and will continue to grow as we keep getting our reimbursements in. It's gonna, it's a slow road, but it's definitely gonna help. We were compared very favorably to many of the hospitals, especially the rural hospitals in Oklahoma, with a lot of our margins, but again, always looking to try to improve on that. And once I go through the whole report, I might be able to talk a little bit more about that. And then we had, I'm just going to talk about these briefly, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, about 8 approvals where we had to kind of clean up with all the changes with our CFO leaving, some of the board members, some of the changes that we made within or the hospitals made within the organization, just some of the signers on the different accounts. We took a long time to get through a lot of those. We approved the appointment of Dr. Lawrence as the interim chief of staff until Dr. Self returns from his deployment. And that's kind of where I got out. Really, the only thing left on that was some reports through QAPI, and we had a couple policies and procedures for the Westing Clinic with moving everybody up to the hospital, and our triage policy for the hospital. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Have we signed a new doctor full-time yet?
Thank you for bringing that up. We do have hopefully another one coming in for an interview. A new doctor, when they say here in the next week or two? Yeah, next week or two. So keep your fingers crossed on that. One of the recent ones we did get turned down, so that's why we're bringing another one in. So thank you for reminding me about that. I did have that. Any other questions? If not, I will either turn it over to one of my colleagues for the Finance Committee report, or Joe Don, if you want to cover that in your manager's report.
I'll cover that in my manager's report.
Okay, with the city mayor's report, again, Mayor Parker gives his regrets, but he had a family event that was good for him to go to. So turn it over to city business manager's report.
One of the first things I wanted to mention is that I sent out an email not too long ago and haven't heard a lot back on it, but on February 10th, the Chamber of Commerce will be having their Citizens Choice Awards Gala, be held at the Bob Baker Hangar like it was last year, starts at 6 p.m. The city does have one ticket that was given to us by the Chamber. I can get more if council members want to attend. If we have enough council members to attend, we can buy a table, and that would give us 8 tickets for the event. I just need for people to let me know if they want to try to attend. I can either have or can get tickets. Over the past, since the last council meeting, staff, at least in office, and me, have spent a lot of time working on our Next Step payroll processing program. We processed our first payroll through Next Step on January 16th. There was one minor error, minor, relatively speaking. We underpaid some people that we will be correcting on the January 30th payroll, which is the payroll will be processing next week. We did have a visit last month from the Oklahoma Corporation Commission to inspect our fuel tanks. We were given a notice of violation. The reason for the notice of violation is because we didn't have a spill control prevention plan in place and on site. This plan is, because of the size of tanks we have, is required that an engineer prepares the plan for us and stamps it. I have negotiated a price with Myers Engineering for $1,500. The last prevention plan we did cost us $1,500 and was prepared by Cardinal Engineering. We're going to get it. They were more expensive for this one. Myers was doing it for the same price, so we went with them. I did attend via teleconference on January 18th, an OML Legislative Committee meeting, where we outline the priorities for OML for the legislative session that's starting here in the next week or so. Also, some of that conversation dealt a lot with, some of that meeting dealt a lot with Class B type lenders, which would be the payday loan type lenders, the guys that go into. We don't have a lot of those in Alva, but that's a big push for communities that have a military base, because those lenders seem to prey on military, our military, and they like to see some things. OML would like to see some things done on that. The other House bill that we discussed in detail was House Bill 1048, which dealt with the taking of water rights, groundwater rights by eminent domain. There is going to be some legislation on that. It will be a highly contested bill, we feel, from Farm Bureau and places like that, entities like that, but it is something that we're looking into. Some of the projects that we've gone along that we are working on, we've finished we're going to start in probably April, the water transmission line from the well field. That's right before the street crews are going to start working on streets, and before our water demand picks up too much. We are still working through the well field rehabilitation on wells 64 and 66. These were the wells that tested positive for E. coli. We have got all the plumbing redone. We've got the pads in place. We're going to buy a couple of prefab buildings that should cost us around $2,500 each to go on those, to cover those wells as well houses, and we'll get DQ back up and inspect those and get those back in service. The North Highway 281 water line is complete, and the REAP grant's been closed out, and we've received our money. Professional building, we've done a lot of work over there over the past few months, replacing the roof, putting in a new HVAC system for Suite D, which was completely out, and we've just been putting that off. We're currently working on an HVAC system for the hallways, which should help the individual offices control their heat a little bit better. There's a lot of leakage that goes out into that. Have talked to Lance Harsman, and do have some quotes that I've been discussing with the Park and Building Committee about replacing our professional building over here. On the signage, we are missing an eye. It'll be terribly hard to probably find that, and I've circulated out a proposal that Lance has that we'll get those down, get a new signage up that matches our signage plan, and make that look a lot nicer. The cost on that's probably going to be about $8,000. With us doing the labor to remove what's there. I'm looking at having inmates do that. Right now they've been helping Russell in the well field, and they're fixing to be needing to come back out. We'll get them working on that. The last project that we've been going through is computer conversion. We had 11 computers that needed to be upgraded to Windows 10. We had, out of the 10 that were the 11 that were recommended for replacement, we're going to replace 7 of them. The other computers that were recommended for replacement could still be upgraded, and we felt it was wise to postpone that computer replacement for a different year, so we're not having to try to replace a whole bunch of computers in 1 year, 5 or 6 years from now. As far as financials are concerned, I'll talk about the sales tax and the utility revenues. Sales tax for the month of January is down about 1% from January of 2019, but it's down about almost 5% from projections. Through the month of through the end of the year, through January, we have collected $2.4 million for both 18-19 and 19-20. We've got maybe a $600 difference between the two. The two numbers I have written down in my report are the same, and that's not correct. It is a little bit different than that. Utility bills are right in line with where we were at this time last year, but we are about 1%, and we're about 1% down from collections last year. When we look at overall the overall revenue versus expenditures, we have collected about 39% of what was budgeted for this year through December 31st, and we have expended about 44%. Our expenditures are over our collections. For the two major areas that we have for revenues is our general fund, sales tax and use tax, and our utility bills, which are both down about 5% from projections. And that would be my report. I'd be happy to answer any kind of questions that you may have.
Thank you. Any questions for Joe Don? Okay, hearing none, we'll move on to item 7, remarks and inquiries from citizens. Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to item number 8. Presentation from Northwestern Oklahoma State University on the fall 2019 semester Alva Incentive Scholarship Program. Mr. Berg.
Thank you, Dr. Hannaford. Tonight, got a new face joining us this evening. Kelsey Martin, our Director of Alumni, University Marketing and Communications, sorry. And then, of course, Dr. Janet Cunningham, who's been with us a long time. You guys know her very well. I had originally planned not to say anything tonight, which you might wish I'd done that by the time I finished. But on the way in this morning, I changed my mind because I like to share stories of students, and if I have what I think is a good one, and those are if people around me are making things happen, I like to share those stories. So I want to share something happened. So this started Sunday morning, and I had the opportunity to have a conversation with one of our students who's attending our church. Been there probably 3 or 4 Sundays, and I didn't even know her name. Her name is Michelin, which I said, well, I should be able to remember that. She said, yeah, it's like the auto parts. And then one of our church members came by and tried to call her Mercedes. So that didn't. She handled that with a lot of grace and humor, and but she, as we started talking, I asked her what her parents did, among other things, and she told me she was a little fuzzy on that, her parents did, and I said, how come you don't understand what your parents do for work? And she said, well, I didn't live with my parents for the last 3 years going to high school. She went to high school in Ringwood. And I know there's a lot of more story underlying that that I haven't figured out yet, but she's studying psychology and wants to be a counselor. Loves Alva, never wants to move away from Alva. And she's a bright, funny young lady that if you never talk to her, she will never say a word, but if you do talk to her, she has so much to offer, and it's just a wonderful conversation. So this morning I'm thinking about that conversation, and I started thinking about, I know two other young people. I know a Jake from Alva who had the same thing, and I know a Hunter from Weatherford who are students on our campus. And these young people seem to have been abandoned by their biological families, but they've been taken in by other families to help support them. And these are just 3 young people that came to my mind this morning. I don't look for these. I don't know how many of them are out there. But when I see these very nice young people flourishing on our campus, and I start to imagine the struggles they've had to endure to get here, without any normal parental support, it fills me with a great deal of gratitude. Now, so many times we hear about single-family parents and how tough that is, and I expect that is very tough. I'm fortunate my wife has stuck with me almost 35 years now, and I can't imagine trying to raise 3 girls by myself. So I can't even begin to imagine what a young person has to go through to make it alone at a high school level and make it all the way to this campus. So I'm extremely grateful that my path was much easier, and so was the path of my children. I'm also grateful that I get to work with a wonderful team in Northwestern who is lifting these young people up and allowing them to reach their dreams and potential through higher education. I'm grateful to live in a state where families reach out and take in other parents' kids and help them be successful. I'm very grateful to live in a community that willingly accepts the self-imposed sales tax and allows Northwestern to recruit and educate so many young people to become productive citizens of our nation. I'm especially grateful to know these young people as they're striving to be their best in spite of their odds and financial situations. So as we place this invoice in front of you for $265,734.03 before this council, I want everyone here and I want everyone in our community to know we're investing in great young people. And these young people are putting these funds to excellent use and are elevating their career and their flight path. Collectively, we all get to be part of their ultimate success, and that should be a pretty good feeling for everyone. Now, I'll be happy to address any questions you might have on the bill that you have in front of us. If I have none, I'll be followed by Dr. Janet Cunningham.
Skeeter, Rick and I a long time ago decided we had to stay together because neither one of us wanted the kids, right? We've told them that many times, but I don't think they believe it. So, thank you for allowing us to be here again tonight. It seems like these come around a little more often than they used to. I don't know what that says about me, probably that I'm getting older. I appreciate the service of the council, and as I've said before, Alva is very fortunate to have individuals who are willing to serve the community. I hear the committee meetings all of you are involved in, and last time I heard the pay is just not that great. So thank you all for what you do for Alva. And I always like to say thank you to the citizens of Alva and those who shop in Alva. We appreciate that very much, and we appreciate what it does for Northwestern. Skeeter talked about outstanding young people, and we do have a lot of them, and we have examples every day. One thing I want to share with you today is a recent notification that we received, and there are a lot of rating services, ranking services out there right now, and every so often we'll get some, you're ranked this or you're ranked that, and we do quite a bit of research on them to make sure that they are legitimate ranking before we use them in any kind of publicity. But we did receive one a couple of weeks ago that I think we're very proud of, and the state regents actually notified us of this one also. This is 24/7 Wall Street, and they collected data from 6,000 colleges and universities, and their data basically came from the U.S. Department of Education. So if you believe in that, it's a good source. They collected data to select the most affordable colleges with the best outcomes. in each state. So affordability, quality, so kind of a two-part ranking. And for affordability, they looked at three things: the average annual net price, and that just means annual cost to attend less aid that's provided, any type of aid that a student might receive. Then number two, average annual cost of attendance, so the gross price, no aid subtracted. The percent of students who have made progress paying their student loans. So those were the three affordability measures. To measure outcomes, they looked at 4 items. Employment rates for graduates 6 years after their first year of enrollment. So if they graduated in 4, that would be those last 2, 5-1, and if it took them a little longer than that, which it sometimes does, unemployed at that point possibly. Then employment rate for graduates 10 years after their first year of enrollment. Median earnings for graduates 6 years after first year of enrollment, and median earnings for graduates 10 years after the first year of enrollment. Those were their outcomes measured. Northwestern they selected one school in every state, and Northwestern was the school selected for Oklahoma. So we thought that was good enough to share, and I think actually Kelsey has been using that in some social media. I think I saw something on Twitter about that. So good news. We know we're affordable, but it's nice to have that quality validation coming also. This fall's been really busy. We went through our accreditation visit for teacher education. It seems like we're going through accreditation visits on a fairly regular basis. That's just the world we live in. But we went through undergraduate and graduate levels, and the team was both a national team for CAPE and then the state team, and we went through that with no findings, not even a concern. So kudos to our education division, all of our academic area, Dr. Hannaford as the one that's in charge of all that. We also completed our initial accreditation visit for the Doctor of Nursing practice. You have to go through a couple of years and then do initial, and their only recommendation is our numbers were larger than we had anticipated, so they're recommending an additional faculty member. But other than that, they happen to be all ladies. Actually got pretty emotional about what we were doing with that program, that we were able to raise funds for that program and actually transform an institution to be able to have a doctoral program and meet a need of the region, of the state, of our communities, and so on. So that was a great visit. And we did those all in 1 week, right? Dr. Hanford, remember that? We completed the window replacement and renamed Ryerson Hall, which we've gotten a lot of very good comments about that. We had 2 national champions crowned in June in rodeo. Saw a little press on that. Bridger Anderson in steer wrestling, and he was just named our Sports Hall of Fame scholarship winner for a 3.8 GPA. So a very talented young man, not only in steer wrestling but academically. Taylor Munsell in breakaway roping. We've used some private funds to add a new 20-stall barn facility at the Don Campbell Rodeo Complex. And if you haven't driven out north, do that. We've also branded the entire facility with our signature Ranger red and black, so it really looks like it all goes together, and I think the rodeo team feels like they have a home. We were fortunate to host, I believe, 2 high school playoff games this past fall. So again, doing everything that we can to try to bring people to Alva, and they're going to spend some money when they come. So, and really, I think that's all I have, unless you all have some questions. Just a quick update. Hi, Rick. We haven't seen each other much today.
Any questions for President Cunningham? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
As you know, that was just the presentation. We'll be voting on that later on in another meeting. We'll move on to item number 9. Acknowledge the receipt of DEQ permit NWWT 0000761908881 for the construction of the Oklahoma Boulevard Booster Pump Station and all appurtenances to serve the city of Alva, Woods County, Oklahoma. Joe Don, would you like to speak a little bit more?
Well, this is our permit to reconstruct the water pressure pump up at 14th in Oklahoma. The DEQ requires that the permit be acknowledged at the city council meeting and be placed in the minutes that we acknowledged it, and that's the reason this is here.
Any other questions, comments? If not, I would ask for a motion.
Motion to approve the EQ permit as stated in the agenda.
A motion, to have a second?
Second.
A motion by, okay? Okay. I have a motion by Councilman Sherman. A second by Councilman Eckhart. Roll call?
Sherman,
Yes.
Eckhart,
Yes.
Martin,
Yes.
Wallace,
Yes.
Hamilton. Yes. Hannaford.
Yes. Sometimes you're picky about how we do motions, so just checking. Move on to number 10. Discussion and action on the approval of CEC Corporation Contract Amendment Number 1 in the amount of $64,950 for the construction of the omnidirectional approach light system, ODALS, for runway 18.
This was discussed at the last airport commission meeting. They did approve that that I signed the letter of interest to go back to the Oklahoma Aviation Commission to have the ODAL system installed at the airport. What this will do is add additional lights for approaches coming into the airport, and allow for a much needed improvement. The grant amount, which would include the engineering that we are asking for the contract to be approved of tonight, is a total of $350,000. It's what we anticipate. The city's portion of that would be roughly 5%. We do need to sign the contract with the amendment, the contract amendment with CEC. CEC is our new engineer for the airport. We went through a process back during the summer months to select a new engineer as required. Went out for bids, and CEC was the low bidder. And so we're asking tonight to approve the amount for the contract amendment, which would be for $64,950 for the engineering of the ODAL system. Once we have bid the project out, we will be coming back with a firm amount on what the cost of that would be. Just right now, we think it's going to be around, based on other work that's been done around the state, around $350,000.
What is that timeline
For the
for the bids? Do we have a kind of a goal or?
no, once we get everything submitted with the letter of intent, we'll have to get a letter back from OAC saying that we've been awarded the grant. Once we have that letter back from awarding of the grant, we'll be able to move forward with the bidding.
You said that the city would be responsible for 5%. The discussion item says Alva
Well,
Airport.
the airport / city is responsible.
But it'll come out of their.
It'll come out of airport funds.
Okay.
Yes, not city funds. It'll come out of airport funds. But the contract needs to be signed, it needs to be approved by the city because the city is the beneficiary of the airport.
Any other questions? Not, I'll take a motion.
I'd make the motion to approve the CEC Corporation Contract Amendment Number 1 in the amount of $64,950 for the construction of the omnidirectional approach light system for runway 18.
Second.
I have a motion by Councilwoman Hamilton, second by Councilman Wallace. Roll call?
Hamilton,
Yes.
Wallace,
Yes.
Hannaford,
Yes.
Sherman,
Yes.
Eckhart,
Yes.
Martin.
Yes.
Okay. Next agenda item is number 11, discussion and action to appoint Angelica Brady, Finance Director, the authorized agent for the OKMRF retirement plan. If you remember, we just had a resignation. I got the email right before Christmas almost. And we need to appoint another authorized agent. And you can see that once approved, Ms. Brady will act as the agent for the employer. And the activities will include the contribution and payroll information, providing, assisting employees with forms and applications, and assist employees in the city with planned matters. Joe, Don, anything else to add to that?
No, I have nothing else to add to that.
Any other questions? Comments? Do I have a motion to appoint Angelica Brady as the authorized agent for the OKMRF retirement plan?
Motion to appoint Angelica Brady.
Second.
Okay, a motion by Councilman Sherman and a second by Councilwoman Hamilton. Roll call?
Sherman,
Yes.
Hamilton,
Yes.
Martin,
Yes.
Wallace,
Yes.
Eckhart,
Yes.
Hannaford.
Yes. Okay, we'll move on to item 12, remarks and inquiries from council members. I'll start off by just saying thank you to the employees who worked awfully hard to get the water fixed and back running.
Yes. Yes.
I was one of the ones that was in the shower and ran out of water. I was trying to get that in because I wasn't for sure if we'd have water the next morning, but it was great to get the text not too long
Yeah.
after that, so kudos to them. Any other comments? Okay, if
I would
not,
like to say one, if I can, I'd like to say one thing I forgot to mention during my report is that we got notification today, Angelica had applied for a scholarship to the Treasurers Institute for OMCTFOA, Oklahoma Municipal Clerks, Treasurers, and Finance Officials Association. It's a multi-year accreditation program at through OSU. She received a I got notification today that she did receive a scholarship for this year to pay for her admission and other things. So, as finance director, she is doing her part to save the city money.
it's always a good thing. Congratulations. Any other comments? Okay, hearing none, we will adjourn our regular meeting, and we will now go to our regular Alva Utility Authority meeting, and I'll call that to order. Angelica, roll call?
Winters, Martin,
Here.
Eckhart,
Here.
Sherman,
Here.
Hamilton, here, Hannaford,
Here.
Stelling, Wallace.
Here.
Okay, we'll move on to number 3, discussion and action on the consent agenda. As all the following items which concern reports and items of a routine nature normally approved at AUA meetings will be approved by one vote of the authority. Any trustee desiring to discuss an item on the consent agenda may request that it be removed from the consent agenda and placed for discussion at the next item on the regular agenda. It will then be considered separately. The consent agenda consists of the consideration and action on the following items: approval of the minutes of the regular meeting from December 16, 2019, and approval of claims in the amount of $61,819.94 and payroll expenses of $85,185.09.
Motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
I have a motion by Councilman Sherman and a second by Councilman Wallace. Roll call?
Sherman,
Yes.
Wallace,
Yes.
Hannaford,
Yes.
Eckhart,
Yes.
Hamilton,
Yes.
Martin.
Yes.
We'll move on to item number 5, discussion and action on awarding the Oklahoma Boulevard booster pump construction to Betico Incorporated out of Sapulpa, Oklahoma, as the lowest and best bid, the amount of $326,898. Joe Dolan.
Well, you may remember the name. Betico has done work for us in the past. They installed our new chlorination station. We've been very pleased with that. They've done they did quality work out there. Really looks nice. If you get a chance to ride with Russell to go out there and see that thing, I'd recommend it. It's pretty impressive. But this is for the booster station up here on Oklahoma Boulevard at 14th Street for the water tank there and to feed the west side of the city. As you'll recall, one of the reasons we're taking on this project, it is a planned project that we've had in the works for a couple of years. It is the last planned project that we had for the loan money that we took out in 2018. This project, the engineers had estimated the cost at $318,500. We had 3 bidders. Bidding ranged from $326,898 to $448,740. The reason we are tackling this project right now is because the gravity-fed water tank on Oklahoma Boulevard does not build up enough pressure to get the water into the system, so it just kind of sits there and stagnates. This pressure pump will keep that water circulating and in circulation where it doesn't do that. Once we have we're not going to pump stagnated water into the city system. Once we have the pressure pump installed, we'll drain that pump, we'll treat that tank, and we'll have fresh water put in there.
That can also clean the sediment or anything that's in and out?
Yes, it should.
And that's all included in the $326,000?
Yes. Yes. That's about $8,000 more than what engineering is costing, the engineer's bid estimate was. But at the beginning of this year, beginning of January 2019-20, we had roughly $950,000 remaining out of the loan money. This will take up some of that money, but we're still going to have money left over from the projects, and we'll have completed all the projects we were working on. There are numerous things that can be done with that money. It can go back to pay on the loan. Obviously, we can do that. And what I would recommend that we do is identify other water system needs that we have, and improve those water systems. One of the things that I explained to the Finance Committee tonight was that as far as evaluating projects for that, I may have had a different answer 6 months ago than what I've got tonight, but I really think that we need to be looking closely at the water lines, the transmission lines we have in the areas of town that are downhill from the water pressure tanks. All those lines are older. They are not in good shape. They need to be replaced. I think they're going to cause a lot of problems in the future, especially as we start adding more pressure. Everything downhill from that tank builds pressure as it comes downhill. So it may have 75 pounds of pressure at the top of the hill, but by the time it gets downhill, we're talking about 125 to 135 pounds of pressure. And I think that's one of the reasons we saw that water line break this weekend. We've had water line breaks there around in that area in the past. I would anticipate that we would have more water line breaks if we don't do something to address that. And that would be the reason I would make that recommendation. But that's just kind of an outline of what the money can be used for. This item, of course, is to authorize the award of the low bid. And Betico has done good work for us in the past. They did the work on time. It was within budget. There were no change orders that I can recall.
What was their time frame to complete the project once they got approval and started?
The time frame on this is 180 days, I believe. Yeah.
All right, any other questions for Joe Don? Any other discussion? If not, I would accept a motion.
I'd make the motion to award Oklahoma Boulevard Booster Pool construction to Betico Incorporation out of Zapata as the lowest and best bid in the amount of $326,898.
Second.
A motion by Councilwoman Hamilton, and a second by Councilman Sherman. Roll call?
Hamilton,
Yes?
Sherman,
Yes.
Wallace,
Yes.
Martin,
Yes.
Eckhart,
Yes.
Hannaford.
Yes. All right. We will adjourn the AUA Authority, and we move to the Economic Development Authority. And I'll call this meeting to order. Angelica, roll call.
Winters, Barton,
Here.
Eckhart.
Here.
Sherman,
Here.
Hamilton,
Here.
Hannaford,
Here.
Stelling, Wallace.
Here.
Okay, we have quorum. Number 3, discussion and action on the consent agenda. All the following items which concern reports and items of a routine nature normally approved at the AEDA meetings will be approved by one vote of the authority. Any trustee desiring to discuss an item on the consent agenda may request that it be removed from the consent agenda and placed for discussion as the next item on the regular agenda. It will then be considered separately. The consent agenda consists of the consideration and action on the following items: the approval of the minutes of the regular meeting on December 16th, 2019, and B, approval of the claims in the amount of $32,418.36 and payroll expenses of $19,111.25. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Motion to approve consent agenda. Second.
I have a motion by Councilman Sherman and a second by Councilman Eckhart. Roll call.
Sherman,
Yes.
Eckhart,
Yes.
Wallace,
Yes.
Hannaford,
Yes.
Hamilton,
Yes?
Martin.
Yes.
All right, we'll move to item number 5, discussion and action on the payment of Northwestern Oklahoma State University Foundation's invoice of the 2019 fall semester scholarship billing in the amount of $265,734.03. Is there any discussion or other questions?
Somebody got 3 cents.
So we got 3 cents, I guess.
Yep.
Hearing none, I would accept a motion.
Motion to approve the payment to the fall scholarship, for the fall scholarship billing to Northwestern Oklahoma State University.
Second.
I have a motion from Councilman Sherman and a second by Councilwoman Hamilton, and it would be to the Northwestern Foundation for $265,734.03. Roll call?
Sherman,
Yes.
Hamilton,
Yes?
Hannaford,
Yes.
Wallace,
Yes.
Eckhart,
Yes.
Martin.
Yes.
Thank you very much. We are adjourned.